All right. Hello and welcome to the podcast from Stress to Success Blueprint. I'm your host, Lolita Goren. And today is a special treat for me because we have Tina Kadish. And she is a business coach, an author, as you can tell, because she has her books right there behind her on the table. And she's a speaker who helps new and aspiring female entrepreneurs to discover their passion, live their purpose, and achieve prosperity. And with over 20 years in corporate talent acquisition and training, Tina empowers women to create successful, joy-filled business through her proven strategies. Because there's so many people that can say, I can help you, but they have no strategies, and Tina has it. So welcome, Tina, on the show.
Thank you so much, Lolita, for having me. It's an honor to be here. I always love being on a podcast and sharing and learning, from the hosts and offering value.
So, now I want to introduce you, and you've been in a corporate, and I know a little bit about you, but I would like that you will share a little bit more of your story. So, what happened when you were like in the corporate, and now you're not in a corporate? What happened?
So what happened was I got laid off from the corporate world. I was in training and development, and that was the first time that I found myself on this journey of uncertainty because I've always left positions but never been laid off. So I started networking and I started to really go on a self-discovery of what do I do now with my career. At the time, I was a single mom with two kids, and I learned in my research that many women were unhappy, unfulfilled with their careers. And I wanted to help with that. And so I learned of a tool to help women find their passion. And so it resonated with me, that message. And I became a certified passion test facilitator at the time. And I really started my business helping women find their passions. That's how I got started. But then I evolved into business coaching because most of the women wanted to start a business. They wanted that freedom, that flexibility. They wanted to really be in the driver's seat. They didn't want to have the rug pulled from under them like I did. And so that's why today I'm very passionate about helping women on that journey.
It can be very hard to be entrepreneur, but then in addition to be a woman. I'm a stress management coach, and I teach and preach a lot about the stress and how to manage it and all the strategies and all that. And when I started on that journey, I realized, first of all, it impacted my health to the point that I had to start taking care of myself. But it was surprising to me to know that the women and men react differently to stress, and our bodies take it very differently as well. And I think today it's amazing that the women can do whatever they want to do. But when I read that the work environment, um, it is very testosterone driven, and it's very great for men because men stress levels really depend on testosterone levels. Well, for women, we need to be feeling happy in it, oxytocin, dopamine, all of those, the happy hormones. So it is very, very important to do something that we love. So if somebody says, "Hey, I have this corporate job, and there's a lot of demand," that means that the woman in it making it physically sick and very stressed out because it's a lot of testosterone. So it's just going to clash with her natural needs. Now, if the woman is entrepreneur and she has her own time and she has her own uh, things that she do, she can take care of her family and really be happy in that environment, then she will thrive, and it will be very, very good for her body and her state of mind. So now the very personal question to you. So
Sure.
did you see the difference in your own body and your mindset when you were working, let's say, for the corporate environment? What I just described can be very testosterone driven compared to when you start working for yourself, which also can look like, well, it's kind of stressful because you have no idea where your money will be coming from.
Well, it is very stressful. I believe that both are stressful. Working in the corporate world is stressful because you've got a lot of demands. You've got bosses that could be breathing down your back. You have deadlines. Like I was in recruiting, also at a time, and it's very stressful because you are on a schedule and you're going to a job every day, and it's that schedule and meeting deadlines and meeting those objectives. And as an entrepreneur, it is also stressful because you are the one that's going after the business. It's not coming to you. Every day you're designing your schedule. You're the one that's creating your activities. You set that every day. But what the difference is when you're an entrepreneur, now this is me, is that you are doing what you love to do and you have that freedom to create your schedule, to design your programs, who you want to work with. You actually can be intentional with your schedule and the people you want to work with. So that's the difference, is that you're taking initiative and but you're on your own. So it's like a good stress, if that makes sense. And when 4 years ago when COVID hit and I was an entrepreneur, I was so grateful that I wasn't going to a job, that I had to, yeah, go to a job, while that was going on, or you had to, be vaccinated, whatever, not to get political here on that topic, but it's very stressful. And I really felt bad for those people that had to do that. So being an entrepreneur has its ups and downs. It definitely does, but it's a good type of stress, if that makes sense.
I totally agree with you. I think a lot of our stresses and worries really comes from the place that we cannot control something. And I think
Yes.
that's where a lot of people are worried about the future. It's like, oh my gosh, I cannot control this. This is, and um, so somebody can say, well, I am, let's say, in corporate, and I cannot control my time. People control me, and there's a lot of resentment and all of this. So that's one stress. Well, somebody can say, well, if you're entrepreneur, you can have your own stress too, because you don't know what your clients are gonna come, all this. But I think when you're entrepreneur, you know that you're the one who's controlling it.
Yes.
And that itself, I think that separates, because when you're doing this with all the tools in your hands, it's a different kind of stress. It's
It
not
is.
that really it keeps you in the place that you're so resentful, and then it just becomes illness truly, because you have no control and you think you're totally helpless and in a corner.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. You have control, more control. All right. And here's the thing, when people say they're stressed, they have no time, but you're the one that is making choices of how you spend your time. Like every day we have a choice. And are we going to allow it to get to us, or are we going to be in control of it? And that's the thing, we just allow it. I think we allow the stress to come to us. It's how we react to situations. It's how we handle it, and you being the expert in managing your stress, there's different modalities to help you to manage the stress.
I noticed a lot of, well, as we know, we really, whatever we do in life, it has to do all the patterns that we learn when we're growing up as a child. So we learn, I realized for the, when I went on my stress management journey, I realized that I act exactly as my parents do. They were always overreacting into everything, always catastrophizing everything. And it's like, when you think about it now, that was not a big deal. But when you
No.
grow up in that environment of thinking, number one is everything is a big deal. So now you're an adult, grow up into also everything is a big deal, meaning you create your own this stress. But then
Yes.
also, even if somebody decides, like, okay, now I know who I am, whatever in the situation, there is this loyalty, and that's really standing in the way of creating any new habits. It has to do with business development, any development, stress management, anything in life, because we think, well, I have to behave the way I've been taught to behave. And
Mm,
that separation can be stressful, because you think, well, now I'm changing my identity. Who am I going to be? How are people going to look at? But the good news, like, we all can really again start with the place of, it's not a big deal. Everybody's doing their own thing, and if we just give enough courage and say, you know what, we'll be okay, we just need to really take that first step.
yeah, and I think it is I think it's a mindset for me. It's, what is this the the worst thing that's happening right now. Like, and I think that every day being grateful for the little things, because things can be spinning out of control, but how do we handle it is so important. How we react, how we really think about the situation. I believe it could always be worse, and be grateful for what you do have in the moment and being in the present moment, focusing on today, not focusing on tomorrow. The past is gone. It's gone. And there's nothing we can do about it. But this is a work in progress because I have to say, there are moments that I get into that, mode of, oh my God, what am I going to do now? And it's then I have to breathe. I write things down, I journal, I pray, and I say, you know what, it's going to be okay. Everything is going to work out the way it's meant to work out. But I think it takes practice. It does, because we can allow ourselves to get so stressed. And there's a lot of things that are going on that may be in your life that are stressful. And whether it could be health, it could be financial, it could be whatever. It could be your business could be stressful. Yes. So I understand, but I think it's very important for us to how do we handle the stress? Because stress is the number one killer and it affects our health. It can really affect our health. And is it really worth it?
When I was researching for my first book, Rest Stress While You Work, um, I was surprised to find out that statistically, stress is the killer
Yeah.
because stress causes the inflammation in the body, and then it's just
Does.
creates all kinds of problems over there. Because I was always thinking that the number one killer is cancer, but
Mm,
no, it's the inflammation and everything that
exactly.
causes it. So to making sure that we're not really fixing our problem and our stress levels when it's already too late. Because a lot of us, especially with entrepreneurs that they see, the people who come to me, they say, I'm so stressed out, burnout, and I have multiple businesses. I have a family to take care of. I have a aging father and all of this. I have to bring all of this, and I have no even time for myself. But I'm like, well, if you're not going to give it to yourself, you cannot pour out of empty pitch. You just can't. So you still always need to start with yourself.
You do. You have to really focus on yourself first. That self-care is so important. Yeah, it's the inflammation. Inflammation creates the illnesses. So we have inflammation in our body. All right. And yeah, so it is so important. But like again, it's how do we handle the stress is so important. And to recognize it, is
So
important.
now, when I'm talking to you, I already can tell that you can recognize when you're stressed out. Do you have your what they call stress management toolkit that something happens to you and you're like, okay, I'm gonna pull up my toolkit, I'm gonna do my stress management tools, and I'm fine. Do you have this kind of thing for yourself?
I mentioned some of them, like I just take some time and really like sometimes I'll sit down. I have a chair here in my office. I come to this place and I'm just breathing and I'm just staying still. And I'm just kind of like breathing. I might listen to some music, meditation, music, and praying, journaling, reading, maybe reading a book, just getting away from the situation. Or even I'll take a drive, even if taking a drive in the car and go somewhere and have my cup of coffee, with me is something that really helps me to relax. Going out in nature, taking a walk and just sitting on a bench and just breathing and enjoying it when it's, nice weather. But even if it's cold, it's still refreshing to do that. So it's getting away from the situation and really visualizing. I think visualization is important. Like really see yourself in a good place. But I get myself out of the environment and just kind of stop what I'm doing and walk away and just breathe and pray, every day. So it's a practice. It's a ritual. It's something that all of us need to really do. It's not that, getting a massage. You can't do a massage every day. Go get a pedicure, manicure. Yeah, can't do that every day, but a pedicure is beautiful. Massages are beautiful. It's one of those things to fit into your schedule on a regular basis, which is something that I'm like, you know what? I gotta get one done. So because I love them. But just daily little things to do for yourself is so important. Whatever brings you joy, we got to bring them in more. The littlest things. For me, getting a coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, driving in my car gives me joy.
That is so important that when you're doing this, there's multiple things that are working in your favor because first, you're giving yourself a breather, literally. You're just like taking yourself, but also you're showing up for yourself. So
Exactly.
that's mean that you honoring your own needs. You're like, I'm here for you, Tina, and I'm going to take the sweet time to enjoy myself, which is very important. I notice a lot of people who all stressed out, burnout, they do not take this because they grow up in the environment of, well, if you're taking a break, you are seen as a lazy person, and God forbid if you are lazy. And we, as you know, we all herd animals, so it's like, well, if they don't like me, they're gonna kick me out of the group and hence not die. It's all very survivalism in our brain. So what would you recommend someone who listening into this podcast and they say, well, it's very nice of you, Tina. Did you have that time for your coffee? But I'm so busy and I cannot do this. Can you give them an advice?
Yeah, so even 5 minutes, because I've been there. I've been in the corporate world where I had no time. The children were, I was growing up with my children and, they were all, growing up. There was a time that I was working full time. I had two young kids and I was going to school. So managing your time, taking even 5 minutes to just do something for yourself is important. I have aging parents that that I take care of a lot, even, right now as an entrepreneur. I had a daughter that passed away from cancer 4 years ago. Managing her care and aging parents at the same time and trying to to run a business, time was very limited. And even in those moments, getting in my car, taking a breather for 5 minutes, just walking away is what kept me sane. And also my faith to God for me was that praying, just yeah, praying and my faith is what kept me going. So I think for me, it was my faith that has kept me going all my life here because we all have challenging times. There's always something going on. But you know what? Here's the thing. You have a choice every day. You can either go down that pity road or you can be a victor and say, I'm going to get through this. Find those coping mechanisms, because thinking about, is this really worth to get stressed over right now? And maybe, some of your listeners are in toxic relationships. You need to ask yourself, is this relationship serving me or not serving me? Is this creating the stress for me right now? And you got to ask yourself that question because life is so short. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Your happiness is important, and finding somehow that peace within you is important. That makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot of um, when somebody's stuck in the job and the
Yeah.
relationship or even in the pattern that they're continuously doing it. And I always ask this question, how is this serving you? And many don't like that question because really, when you think about it, our brain always works on keeping us alive.
Yeah.
And I say we even eager to kill ourselves in order to survive.
Yes.
So it's like when somebody is in a toxic relationship or something that's really not making them happy, how is this serving them? It's a very painful question, but also very important of really digging deep and saying, okay, why am I okay with being in a toxic relationship? Why am I okay not truly being loved? Why am I okay with being abused? And like, for example, me personally, I grew up with a father alcoholic. To me, pain was equal love. Like, hey, well, he's shouting at me all drunk and throwing things and yelling at me. That's the only attention that I could get, so I'll take it. So then it could be very, very painful, but for those who, when Tina just said that, hey, you may be in a wrong relationship, but you need to get out, and it's triggered you, that's the question you need to ask yourself, really, why am I doing this? Because all of us deserve to be happy and loved. And we're not kids anymore. I'm assuming there are no 13 years old listening to this podcast. It's like
Right.
you are an adult and it's time to give yourself what you really truly deserve. And there's plenty of help, obviously, if we just want to take that first step and continue with that. So it could be very a painful experience, but it's so worth it.
It is worth, and it is painful. I mean, a lot of times, like fear keeps us stuck in situations. Fear kept me, for many years in a job because after I got laid off, I started my business part-time. I did go to a job because of fear and that I didn't believe in myself to start a business full time. But in 2018 is when I finally escaped it. But fear kept me in the job and not believing in myself that I could be an entrepreneur. So that is a lot of times the fear is what keeps us in relationships. We may not believe in ourselves that we could do it, and we I think that's what keeps us stuck a lot is the fear. And we may be comfortable. Like I was comfortable in that job. I was making good money, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all. And so I got to be honest with you, making less money, but I'm happier. All right, in my business, being in my own business, because I have that flexibility, I have that freedom to design what I want to do. All right. And so that's very important to really think about that. It's like, is this helping me right now? Because a company will let you go in a heartbeat. Hey, it's not worth it. All right. Your life is worth it. I believe your life is worth it, to make changes because we're choosing to stay in different situations. Jack Canfield, one of my mentors, he always says, you are 100% responsible for your life. And we are. We think about it. It's how do we allow it? Are we allowing those people to be in our life when they're toxic? Maybe our spouses are toxic and we're staying in those marriages that are not serving us. We have to love ourselves first. And I think that that's where we're losing is that we don't love ourselves first. We're so busy taking care of everybody else. We're not taking care of ourselves first.
Um, and I think a lot of people who grew up in a dysfunctional families with, emotional abuse, physical, all kinds of abuse, um, they're afraid to disappoint the people around them. So
Yes.
when somebody is unhappy in any situation, yes, we need to ask ourselves, why is that serving us? But also, we really need to look in our own goals and values and really truly ask ourselves, is this really mine? Or this is somebody else's that I'm being told that having a high paying job, for example, if we just compare a high paying job where you're not happy and then being a lower job but where you're happy, it's like, well, I better keep this high paying job because if I'm not gonna have, because then my parents will be disappointed in me and I want my father to be proud. Well, because probably you were not really validated and celebrated when you were a child. That's where you
Exactly.
think that you need to have this big car and the house and everything. So you keep yourself in those toxic relationships or in toxic jobs just so you will look better. But at the end of the day, is you not really happy. And then I recommend my clients to say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen if you say no? Like, okay, you leave your job. Okay, let's say that father that you want to, you're afraid to be, to disappoint them. What are you gonna do? Are they gonna die? Are they gonna kick you out of the house? Guess what? You're already out of the house. And what are you gonna be stomping like toddlers and saying, "Oh, I cannot
Yeah.
believe you did this to me"? You're like, "Oh, they survive," you know. But and also I noticed there are so many entrepreneurs also doing this because they want to prove their worth to their parents, they abandoning their own children. And what do I
Mhm.
mean by that is like they causing more wounds to their children by not being there for them,
Yeah.
not being like somebody says, oh, I'm working 12 hours a day and I'm making all this money for my family, I'm supporting my family. It's like, no, you're not supporting your family, you're not there. How can you even support that? So it's so important to realize like you really need to sit down like with a coach, Tina, for example, and really realize what are your goals, are those are yours, are those are your values, or this is really coming like
Yeah.
it's just like a sticker that you came generationally that you're supposed to do this or else. And it's painful, but we really need to start with that. It's like, am I really aligning to this?
Exactly. It being aligned with who you really are is so important. And we lose that. We're always thinking again of pleasing other people. I remember, growing up in a family that it was always I was the oldest of three girls and in an Italian immigrant family. And God forbid that I thought of myself. I was selfish. That was and then I'm the first one in my family to get divorced after 20 years of marriage. I was the big no, no. And I was not happy. And I took longer than I needed to because, again, it was comfortable. I didn't love myself. I was afraid. And I stayed in an unhappy marriage. And I finally had the courage to get out of that marriage. And I still to this day, it's the best decision I ever made. But my family wasn't happy at all because I ruined my kids because they were 10 and 13. No, 10 and 15 when I got divorced. But I was working and working and always working. And I was always stressed out because I didn't have the time to spend with my kids, And then 4 years ago, my daughter passes away of cancer. And I was like, so raising her, working all those hours in a job, staying in an unhappy marriage, always being stressed, did it serve did it serve anybody? It didn't serve anybody because all my daughter remembered me was me yelling and being stressed. That's what she remembered me by. Not good. Not a good way to, but we're taking care of our family. We're putting food on the table. Yes, we're paying the bills, but then for what? For what? So we have to really rethink all this because what are we doing it for? It's so important to spend the time with your family, your kids, and really be in the moment. And this is a lesson. I mean, I learned the hard way losing my daughter. Okay. And all those years of working and working, for what? Like, so yeah, it's so important. I have a different perspective on life today than I did even 4 years ago. It's time that we think about ourselves, have that self-care, being in the right relationships, doing what we love to do, really being in jobs that are aligned with what we love to do, not just surviving, but really being happy because they will let you go in a heartbeat tomorrow without any hesitation. But we put so much of our time and our identity for what? That's the question. For what? So I'm very passionate about this topic.
I'm so happy that you're really saying exactly what I think same. And especially that has to do with families. And I hear this all the time. Um, let's say a mother wants, her naturally, or let's just say a parent. The parent wants the kids to be happy. It's like, no,
Mm,
I want them to be happy. But then the way the parent behaves, the kid really learns that they need to people please. They need to be, lower than anyone else. They should sacrifice, and then those parents say, well, I don't know what happened with my child. They got married, and the spouse is just running their lives, and it's like, well, you taught them how to be the victim. You
yeah,
taught them to give yourself away, to not take care of yourself. So the kid is just became you. So,
that's
but
right.
then it's too late now. So how are you really doing it? This is the best example. Do you teach by example? It's like if you telling yourself, I'm going to take this break. This is how I'm handling stressful situation. This is how I do emotional regulation. You teaching your kid to be successful and happy and fulfilled in life.
You are. We are teaching our children. We are teaching our children. And then we wonder why they become who they become. Well, they learned from us, so yeah, so that is so important, to really be mindful of that. Great conversation, Lolita.
And so needed because we don't really think about those things. Like, well, I'm just gonna go and do what I need to do, and also talking about stress and doing productivities. Just because somebody is doing and they are just so busy, it doesn't mean that they're really productive or it's moving anywhere. But that busyness, it shows like, hey, I am doing so much, so I have this badge of honor. And a lot of people saying that being stressed out is like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm just so stressed out because I'm doing so much. Just mean I'm not lazy. Do not kick me out of the group, and I will live.
It's so true. They think it's a badge of honor. It isn't. I'm doing so much. I always say, as a coach, are you focusing on the right activities? Being busy doesn't mean you are producing. Is there progress? Are you focusing on revenue generating activities? That's the key, not busy. Being busy, not going to get you anywhere. No.
So somebody's now who's listening and they say, okay, okay, okay. Those two ladies talked me into it that I'm in a stressful, toxic environment that has to do with career, let's say. What would you recommend those I know you work a lot with women, and what you would recommend those women who are like right now in the place that they're not happy in their careers and whatever, and they're not really sure how to proceed now. What advice you can give them?
So what I want you to do, because one of the things that I work with my clients is really figuring out their why, like what excites them, what are their strengths, what are their values, where do they see themselves, what do they desire? In other words, what do they want to bring into their life? So I recommend everyone just write down what gives them joy. What are things that if they didn't just loving what they do, what would they do without making any money? What would they do? Something that brings them joy, because when you're following your passion, the money's going to come. And too many times we get fixated on, well, I can't make money doing that. But just write it down, like what brings you joy? What is it that you want to bring into your life, that you desire, that will make you happy doing? You never know. Don't think of the how right now. It's write down what you want to bring in. The how will come, but it's setting your intentions right now and really focusing on what you want to bring into your life. So that's the first step, because what I do is I help the women get clarity, because I have one of my programs that I help you get clear with your career. When a lot of us are stuck and we just don't know where to begin. And then some women come to me, they already have a business idea, then I can take them through the process. But even before that, some women don't even know what to do. They're just stuck in a career, and they come to me and tell me, Tina, I want out, but I don't know what I want to do. So that's where I come in as well.
So since now you started already telling what is that you do and how you can help women, would you mind telling me a little bit more about those three books that you have over there?
Yes. So the first book, there's one the first book was my Freedom 7 Steps to Thrive in Life and Business. This is where I go through my 7 steps. What does freedom mean? And it's really doing the inner work, the barriers that keep us stuck. Okay. And I have a course from my book, Success Incubator, that I walk you through this, because even before starting a business, we have to figure out what is it that we, again, want to bring in, what's stopping us. So it's really doing that deep work. The second book, unfortunately, it's when my daughter passed away. It's From Pain to Peace, a mother's heartbreaking journey through losing a child, totally different topic. But I wanted to help moms and dads who have gone through a loss. How do you create a legacy? How do you move forward from loss? And then the third book there, that's an anthology I was in called Catalyze. And I talked about the barriers, overcoming the barriers to starting a business. And it's from my 7 steps. And so those are the three right now that I have. But stay tuned for book number 4 in 2025.
Ooh, this is so exciting. And what other things that you have that somebody who's listening in now, you're thinking, I really would like to go and join some community that you have, where they should go and what those are?
Yes, so I have a great community called the Aspiring Female Entrepreneurs Inner Circle, and we meet every Tuesday night, and it's for women that are aspiring to be an entrepreneur. They're in that space that we talked about. They're stuck. They're, in that career that they're unhappy with, and we meet every week. And we have many benefits to being in the community. And we work together every week, that we're building our businesses together. It's really a supportive group. You need to find guidance. You need to get support. We can't do it all alone. And we try to do it alone. We try to do things trying to figure it out, but we don't even know if we're doing it right. But when you're around a community helping each other, that's where really it becomes magical. And we have great heart-centered women that are all in this truly want to help each other. And then I created a journal, a 90-day journal for aspiring women entrepreneurs. Everything is on my website, fromjobtojoy.com, where they can access my journals. And I have my business blueprint program that I help you create that blueprint for your business as well. And my books are available there as well.
Well, this is all great. I'm very happy that you gave in details what it is about. So, when I was listening to you, there was a thought that came to my mind, and I think it's all on purpose. So I hear a lot that there are quite a few people that say, okay, well, I really see this is can really work for me, but he wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me. What you would tell someone, some woman right now who's listening in, or even man, if they have this idea of thinking, I would love to do this, but they wouldn't let me.
Okay, so and this happens. This really happens. They won't let me. So I have to ask them, are you important? Are you important to yourself? And here's the thing too, communicating with your partner or whoever that is telling you no, communicate to them on why it is important to you and how it could benefit the family, how it can benefit maybe the relationship. Because I myself, my spouse did not want me to be in my own business because it was scary. He was self-employed and I was the one that was working full time. And I was the one that was carrying the benefits and I had the consistent paycheck. But when I communicated to him, I wasn't happy. Okay. You're not happy, it's going to affect everybody in the family. So you have to ask yourself, are you happy? But communicate with your partner why this would be valuable and beneficial to all of us. Because truly, you have to communicate to your spouse and let them know. All right. So, whoever that person is that they won't let you, well, is it your spouse that won't let you? Okay. So, that's a whole separate relationship issue. Okay. Too, because maybe there's some control issues too are going on. But you have to really ask yourself that, is this important to me? And I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do it because if you don't do it and you're not happy, it's going to affect the relationship anyway because you're not happy. And when you're not happy, you take it home and you create conflict in the family. You create conflict, you get health issues because that was me. I was not happy in my job. And what would I do? I would come home and complain about it to my husband, and it affected our marriage. It affected my health. So I ask the listeners here, is this worth it? Because I was doing it for others, but I wasn't thinking about myself. So, as they say, happy wife, happy life, right? And if you're not happy, no one else is going to be happy either. Okay? But I think the bottom line is communicate to your person, whoever it is, okay, that is living with you. And that's what I'm talking about. If somebody who's saying they won't let you, are they living with you? That's the question. All right. If they're not living with you and they're not contributing to the household, why are you even allowing them to influence you in your decisions? So when I talk about the person, I'm talking about the person who's living with you. Could be your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever situation you're in. Okay. Is what's important. So that's what I'm talking about, is the people that live with you. Okay.
I love the thing that you said. If they're not really contributing, then they have no right to say. Because I grew up being very controlled by my parents, especially my mom, and I'm only one child, so naturally I was like,
Oh,
I have to please her, and I need to run, to ask her yes and no for any decision
mission.
I make, even what I wear, like, well, how about my haircut? Do you like my haircut? Do you think it should be short? And only when I, separated from that, just happened recently, I realized I was like, wait a minute, you mean I have a permission to be my own self? This is how freeing is that? And nobody died when I said, no, I'm going to do the way I wanted to. So it takes a lot of this courage, but I say stress management should not be stressful. So, everyone, and in all this conversation, I loved it because, you said your things that you do for your stress, and how you live your life. But that doesn't mean that somebody else now need to say, okay, now I need to have my cup of coffee and go to my park and find a bench and I'm going to be sitting here. It's like, no, it's not about that. It's about finding what is really works for you.
Right.
You do, and it could be that somebody can just not fully say, you know what, I am done with this job and off I go and close the doors and totally quit. Like I like when you said at the beginning, you also have like part-time job. You can leave just gradually, just kind of tiptoe and just kind of go in there. And we don't have to do things so drastically.
No, you don't. And I always recommend anyone have an exit plan. Have a plan to transition you from that unhappy job to starting a business. All right. Don't just leave a job to to start a business without having a plan. I was planning the exit for months, all right, years actually, all right. But I was building my business part time, getting, my job was funding a lot of my business at the time. So I never recommend that you just drop the job unless it's very toxic and it's really affecting your health, your mental health, and whatever. Then you need to make a decision because when they let you go, you are stuck one day and you have no job and you got to figure it out, don't you? Well, maybe you have to figure it out, but always have a plan that might need to cut out some expenses, remove some debt, get yourself prepared, create an emergency fund. There's a lot of different things you can do to prepare for that exit out of that corporate career.
I love that. And everything starts with a really acknowledging that, it's time for you to do better so you can, be better for your kids, for your family, for the community around it. And I also heard some stories that, especially those people who were thinking, oh, they wouldn't let me. Or let's say about not those that live in their family, but let's say parents. Let's say, oh, I don't want to now stop being a lawyer because my dad will be so disappointed in me. And now I'm going to be a candle maker. But then
Yeah,
when you become candle maker and you're so happy and you have amazing health and travel and family time and whatever, well, that father who really wanted you to be a lawyer, if he's really truly a father who his number one purpose is to see a child happy, he's happy too for you because you found your happiness.
exactly, exactly. So, you mentioned earlier about, pleasing your mom. Yeah, sometimes we're people pleaser, but we're pleasing everybody else, but we're not pleasing ourselves. And then when you say no to them, they're like, whoa, like I stood up to my parents at 40 years old when I got divorced. That's when I stood up to them. And it was scary because I grew up in that environment. You just don't go against your parents. You please your parents. You want their approval, but it's time to think of yourself. And it's not selfish. That's the thing. It's not selfish.
I love the few years back I heard this saying. It says, if you're right now in a situation that you don't know, it's like, well, it's okay, my relationship is okay, like after 20 years of marriage everybody's there, it's nothing exciting, or yeah, well, he's beating me up but I'm used to it. Or the job, I'm sitting in the corporate environment, hey, but it's not safe, it's okay. I love this question that somebody who's listening in, they need to ask themselves, if I will live another 100 years, not two, another 100 years, for sure, like you for sure gonna live another 100 years, are you still happy in this, whatever it is? And if you realize, oh my God, there's no way I'm gonna do another 100 years of the same thing.
Right, I do the same thing. Okay, I know, I know. It's just not worth it. You have to really, you got to really ask yourself, am I worth it to be happy? Like, why am I not loving myself? Because I think it boils down to we don't love ourselves.
So we are giving permission to all of you who are listening in, love yourself, because then when you're coming from your own power, you can be more useful, because we all want to be useful and more productive and more loving and giving to everybody around you, your family and your community. And the good news is we have Tina, and she can walk you through it. This is right that moment when people say, "Oh, I already have business. I don't know how to run it." Let's start from the beginning. If you get an idea right now that you're not in the right place, and you think, "Oh my gosh, I just realized I don't want to do this 100 years," great, because Tina is here. So we can talk about this forever, but I am inviting you all who's listening in, just go for it. Book a session with Tina, go check out her books, get involved in her community, and you will see that you can totally do it. And hey, I'm here for you too. And if you're stressing out, you book a session with me. And I have another slew of women and amazing people that can help you with your business and your mindset. So thank you so much, Tina, for having this great time. And I am just admiring so much, what
Thank
you
you.
went through, so much of pain and suffering, and look at you now, and I'm so proud of you that you're
Thank
shining
you.
your bright light, and you inspiring other women to become their best selves.
Well, thank you so much, Lolita, for having me here. And all of you listening, you can do it. Believe in yourself. Love yourself every day because you're worth it. Thank you, Lolita.